this year's World Food Day is celebrated under the theme, the right to foods for a better life and a better future. However, it comes after a grim picture that was painted by a survey conducted by the Human Sciences Research Council, showing that at least half of the country's households, more than half in fact, of the country's households is facing food insecurities. The number is 63%. And I think the Minister of Agriculture, John Steenhuisen, is here today to celebrate or observe World Food Day. And I think he would be the fitting person to speak to about this issue. Minister, 63% of South African households are facing food insecurities. That is a grim picture.
It certainly is a grim picture, and I think it now is a clarion call and a call to action now for a whole of society approach to dealing with food insecurity and hunger across the country. The reality is government cannot do it alone, and that's why we're also relying on partnerships, both partnerships within government, across government departments, but also partnerships with the private sector, partnership with corporate South Africa, partnerships with NGOs, CBOs, schools, to get on top of the situation. The report that I released last week now gives us an understanding about where the real problems lie, and what that does is allows us to direct resources and budget towards addressing these particular problems at source. As you rightly said, the report paints a grim picture, most particularly for the Northern Cape, and that's why we've chosen the Northern Cape to celebrate World Food Day and to talk about food security and look at homegrown initiatives to be able to assist in making sure that more people have access to healthy, nutritious food on a regular basis.
But Minister, some might say this is reactive. We've always known that people need to eat. It's not a new phenomenon that South Africans are going to bed hungry. Isn't this a reactive measure now? Shouldn't this have been done long before we even get such a survey?
Well, I think that the problem in the past has been without baseline data, it's been very difficult to target the issue. Not all of South Africa is food insecure, and the incidents of food insecurity are isolated to particular districts that we're now able to drill down on. We've made a very clear commitment as the Government of National Unity that decision making and budgeting will be done on evidence-based decision making. What we now have with the report is a baseline report. It now gives us something to measure ourselves against as we tackle, but also instead of a shotgun approach to trying to deal with the problem, we're able to now sharp focus it in those areas identified in the report. And obviously, everybody can play a role in this.
Yeah. And maybe let's talk about recent floods. And do you think these are also affecting in some way when we look at the environment and what is happening? We've had even snow at some point, things that were not there. Do you think there's an effect of some sort?
Yes, of course. And I mean, anybody who denies that climate change is real only needs to look at the agri-sector. We've been hit this year by terrible droughts, but also severe flooding. We've been hit with devastating fires, but also thick and heavy snow. And all of this has an impact on food security, whether it's the black frost in Limpopo that killed the large potato crop, whether it's the livestock that have been lost in the Eastern Cape and in KwaZulu-Natal and now the Northwest through drought and fire. All of this has an impact on food security. And obviously every crop lost to any one of these natural disasters is food that's not going onto a plate somewhere. So we have to find ways to mitigate and become more resilient. And that involves a whole wide range of things, from new breeding technologies for more resilient crops and grains, to making sure that we are burning fire breaks and making sure that we're prepared for these disasters when they happen.
And I just think lastly, Minister, we cannot isolate this issue. It has to be economic as well. The cost of living has been high for many South Africans are not affording things they could afford 3 years ago, for argument's sake. Will you be working with other departments to ensure that you'll curb this food insecurity that we are seeing in the country?
There's a number of things that have to be looked at because it is a cross-departmental approach. Things that affect the food price are things like the fuel price, things like import tariffs, things like VAT, things like the rising cost of being able to transport food around the country. And of course, load shedding had a devastating impact on that. So it is working together across government departments. The government of National Unity is committed to bringing down the cost of food, and we're already in the medium-term development plan looking at a number of ways which we can achieve it. The President has tasked us to say we've got to make food more affordable in South Africa.